folks. I am back and so happy to be back in the garden. So this last week we went to Missouri on a family vacation. It was so gorgeous and much cooler than it is here. We went to southern Missouri, stayed at a little resort called the Lazy Eagle Resort. Highly recommend it. It sits on Table Rock Lake and it was absolutely beautiful. And while I was gone, I had my neighbors, Paige and Spencer, and my mom watching the entire homestead for me, and they did a fantastic job. There were a few deaths, which is typical when you leave the garden for so long. It happens. And honestly, some of these things might have died anyways. So the largest victim was this tromboncino squash, which is just completely dead. I've left these on here because I had been leaving them to ripen to full maturity so that I could store them for winter squash. But the outsides are still soft and this plant is just so dead. I'm not sure they're gonna fully ripen, which stinks a lot. Now this is the base of the plant and I'm not quite sure what happened. I don't see any large holes, but I also haven't looked too hard at it. So yesterday, it's a 14-hour drive and we drive there every year, but I was exhausted. So I came, checked on the garden, did some watering, and then this morning, as you see, I have to run into work. So I'm doing this quick video to update you guys, and it's been so long since I posted something, but I haven't had a good chance to fully examine some of these dead plants and why they died. But the rest of the garden is as lush and green and gorgeous as it was before I left. These cowpeas on both sides of the trellis have really taken off and are climbing all the way up. I don't have any beans just yet. Oops, well, definitely not gonna get a bean out of that one. I just pulled off this blossom. But there are tons of blossoms, so I will be harvesting beans from here soon. Now these are specifically the purple hole pink eye cowpeas on both this trellis and that trellis. These ones, the asparagus beans, also called yard-long beans, they've been producing for a while. And I had my neighbors do plenty of harvesting while I was gone just to make sure everything kept producing until I got back. But these guys are out of control. Now I did have two other deaths. One other squash plant, one of my Tahitian melons, just called it quits. And an entire Amish paste tomato plant. And let me show you what happens when there's 110-degree heat in the garden. So this sad yellow dying tomato plant is my Amish paste. The stem is completely fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't look like disease or blight. I've had literally no rain here in the past week. And this is one of the tomatoes, and I will just pull this off because I'm not going to eat this. This is chicken food now. This is the tomatoes literally cooking on the vine. So my mom had gotten a hold of me every day that she was over here, letting me know about the garden, how it was doing, and she was telling me that every day she came out, it didn't matter if they were ripe or not because it was happening even to green ones. These Amish paste tomatoes would just be squishy and wrinkled, just weird looking. And this is what happens when it's just too hot for a specific tomato variety. It will literally cook during the day on the vine and just be gross and unusable. Basically all of the tomatoes from my Amish paste are chicken food. Now right next to this Amish paste I have a German pink tomato plant that is doing wonderfully, and these tomatoes look delicious. I'm probably going to end up picking this guy tonight. So really it is just the variety, and I'm probably not going to grow this variety again. And I had fairly poor luck with the Amish paste last year. I like to do things 2 years in a row, you know, just give it a good chance to try and make it through my weather. But that's not going to be a good heat tolerant dry desert variety tomato, and that's fine. I'll have to find another paste tomato that does do well in here. All of my other tomatoes are doing fantastic. Surprisingly enough, one of my best performing tomatoes this year is the Giant Crimson from MI Gardener. I have no idea on the history of that tomato, besides what Luke at MI Gardener knows. So it's very interesting to me that it's doing so well in this desert environment. Another fantastic producer is the Estiva tomato. This is an F1 hybrid from Johnny's, bred specifically for high heat, and it looks amazing. Now this is one of 2 plants I have left after curly top virus got most of them, and it's actually not growing a whole bunch, so I'll probably come back and fertilize this guy pretty soon. But look at that fruit set. They're just gorgeous, same size, beautiful vine of tomatoes. And while I was gone, my Armenian cucumber plant exploded. I have a couple fruits on here. There's one guy right here. I'll wait till he gets a little bit bigger, but I'm sure that will happen by either tonight or tomorrow morning. And the Armenian cucumber is actually a melon, but you pick them small and you eat them like a cucumber. They taste very similar. You can get them to larger size and eat them like a melon. They're just not really as sweet. So I'm using this as a cucumber plant because it does so well in the heat. But I did have one cucumber come off of my cucumber plants, my actual like cucumber plants while I was gone. My mom picked it for me. And this is the cucumber vine that produced one cuke for me while I was gone. It's currently inside. But this is the Thundercue, which is also an F1 hybrid from Johnny's. It's meant to be heat tolerant. It took a while to get started, but now it's really taking off. I don't know if it loves the heat or if it just had a bad start. Nonetheless, it's got little baby cukes on it, and it's already produced one, so that's promising. It looks very healthy. And right next to it is my other dead squash plant. So here I have 2 different Tahitian melon plants planted. I have one here and one over there. The one on the right side still looks moderately healthy. It's growing, it's producing, but this branch specifically right here is gone. And unfortunately, that is what's connecting these 2 Tahitian melons that probably will not mature now that it's got no nutrients coming to it. And that's really the most disappointing thing about this squash dying. I'm okay with my plants dying. It happens. I have tons of squash bugs, although my mom did an excellent job of coming over and picking as many as she could find. And the heat gets a lot of them. I've never grown this variety before. It may not do that well in the heat. And I can just replant with a summer squash because they grow so quickly. But I was saving these guys specifically for storage as winter squash. And now that the plant is no longer getting nutrients, it will not continue to ripen. And that means it will not be at full maturity and it will not store very long. So that stinks. And I've had quite a few squash plants give out in the in-ground garden, but I do have several pumpkins that are coming to maturity that I will be able to harvest shortly. Oh, look at this guy. Hello. Oh, you're pretty. And these were all the pumpkins that were self-sown from a pumpkin rind I threw in here last year. So that's pretty cool. They were not intentionally planted. They're little surprise pumpkins. They make me so happy. The corn that I planted, this is a sweet corn variety, has really taken off while I've been gone. And of course, the gorgeous sunflowers just keep going, keep getting taller. This guy is about a foot from the shade cloth. They are huge. But all in all, this garden has flourished while I was gone. It was in great hands with my neighbor and my mom. And it's going to continue producing some things for the most part. I'm going to replant the squash, especially the Tramontino squash that's completely dead, and probably this Tahitian melon over here on the trellis that's completely dead. I will definitely have to replant those spaces because we have a long growing season here. I don't have my first frost until around November 1st, which gives me September, October, 4 months. So about 120 days to grow things. I could grow a lot of things in 120 days. I could probably go buy several starts of tomato plants if I wanted to replant them and get tomatoes by November 1st. So I don't know what I'm gonna do yet. I have a lot of ideas, but honestly, it's just been so busy. Driving 14 hours, coming home, being exhausted. I crashed out at like 9. And then today I don't really get a break because I have to go into work, but that's okay. The garden looks great. And I have a ton of videos coming soon because I have a ton of work to do in here. First and foremost, I need to get this area cleaned up. There are weeds abounding, and I need to pick up all of these weeds, do a little bit of weed eating, and just generally straighten up the area. My in-ground beds are covered in Bermuda grass. Also, I need to do a large harvest. I have a ton of peppers that need to be harvested. And oh my gosh, there's an okra. Oh, look at that. I have one. This is my first okra of the season. This is a burgundy red. I'm so excited. Hi, little guy. Ah, yay! I have okra. Okay, so I need to do a harvest, and that's gonna be a completely separate video. So I'll probably do a garden cleanup video. I'm definitely doing a harvest with you guys here soon. I've got tomatoes that need to come out. And these potatoes. These potatoes need to come out. I mean, they're still green, and I'm sure they're still growing, but it's about time to just get them out of here and replant this space. If I had had a very good potato harvest this year, I might leave them in just to try and get as much as possible, but I had a pretty poor potato harvest this year. So I'll just call it a wash and harvest the rest of these. Another video I've got coming is replanting a ton of this stuff. All the dead squash I'm gonna pull out, I'm gonna have to replant those spaces. All of this in-ground garden area, I'm replanting those spaces. And it's almost time to start seeds for the fall garden. So I'm gonna be starting seeds for the fall garden at 2 separate times because I have heat tolerant broccoli and cauliflower that I want to get started earlier, and then I have cold tolerant broccoli and cauliflower I want to get started later. So with all this garden space I've got, I kind of want to do an experiment this year, trying the 2 different tolerances at different times and see if I can get a continual harvest all the way through December and January. So I will be starting seeds fairly soon, which means I should probably do some more seed shopping. The worst thing about starting seeds for the fall garden is finding a place to put those transplants because I've still got a summer garden going on. But we'll figure it out. I'm excited. I'm excited to be back. And I'm excited to have a little baby okra. Alright guys, well I have to head inside. I've got to get to work. And probably will edit this later on tonight. It won't be up until tonight. I apologize. It's been a whole week. I'm sorry. But there's no gardening content in Missouri where I don't garden. So thanks for hanging in there. Thank you for 1,000 subscribers. That happened while I was on vacation. It made me very, very happy. And I will catch you guys on the next one.